Welcome to the Three Beards podcast. Again, we're waiting our guests. They're working on mic issues, and we're waiting to hear. Chris is supposed to be here. He didn't say anything, but I haven't heard from him yet. So hopefully he'll come screaming in. But brought to you by ERT Radio. Go to Mixler.com and sign up your account there. Courtesy of Ron over there, over there. We are rebroadcast every Wednesday at 11 o'clock p.m. They're on ERT Radio, so you can re-listen to this show next week. And also, you can also listen Into the Outer Realms, Dimensions of the Supernatural with Maureen. I'm going to try to reach out to her and see if maybe we can get her on the show. Like I said, kind of mesh with the network there, but listen to the programming that Ron puts on as well. So just go to Mixler.com, follow ERT Radio, and that's ERT Radio, proud sponsor of the Three Beards podcast. So tonight, hopefully, if we can get the mic issue thing, we've got Nancy Thames. She is former DoD employee and UFO disclosure. She's really the time is now for disclosure. So we'll have her talk on, see what she can talk about in the DoD days, and also where she sees like where they're getting it right, where they're getting it wrong. So hopefully we can get the mic fixed up there right now. If not, we'll bring Sir Brian on, and we will talk tattoos. How's that sound? All right. So we will see. Why does he have that tramp stamp? It's like, when did he get it, and why did he get it? And just the life choices that man made. We'll figure that out. So all right, everybody, sit back. We will see you on the other side. Welcome to the Three Beards podcast. My name is Craig, along with Austin and Chris.
Passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century.
Let me out.
I'm afraid that is right. Justice and honor in Massachusetts colony?
All right. So you want to explain to everybody what your tramp stamp says? He doesn't have one.
Jaron, you're right. They are awesome unless you have a daughter or two.
Yeah,
they're not awesome. But if you have like a 40-something-year-old wife and they want a Jeep, that's a mobile tramp stamp. That is, when women get older, your tramp stamp becomes a Jeep. I want a Jeep. Yeah. Oh, you want to fuck the guy down there at the gym? Okay, I gotcha. So I have a Bugs Bunny. So yeah. And we were talking about.
We're going to show off tattoos here. I have an elk. I can figure out the camera here.
Bugs Bunny. What's up, Doc?
That's the one I need to. We were talking right before the show. That's what. So we're waiting on Nancy to see. She was trying to figure out what was going on with the mic here, and so.
Well, I mean, just before we went live, I was saying that I was looking at a couple other tattoos. The big thing is like words, stuff on the side.
All right.
There you go. Hello.
All right. So we got a little bit of an echo.
Oh gosh.
So and might need headphones or something like that if you listen to it through the computer.
I don't have any headphones. I've never had to use any, so I don't know what's going on.
No problem.
Yeah, I apologize. I had to totally log back out and start all over again. It's weird.
All right, so Brian, it sounds like the echo is from my end to her and not yours, so talk.
Oh, really?
Oh no, there it is. That was weird. It like went away for a second.
I'm going to give today I feel like I'm the luckiest guy in the face here. Lou Gehrig.
So this will be
So
a
Nancy,
little bit of an echo.
how did you? Were you in DOD first?
No.
Or no? So were you a believer?
I am a lifelong contactee. My first conscious memories are from about 2 or 3 years old, and it has been going on up until this present day. I have face-to-face contact with interdimensionals and positive extraterrestrials. Yeah. So when I was little, I've always had the 3 same grays. One is a female, and I'm bonded with, and she is always the one that comes to me and gets me and takes me to craft. When I get on craft, I am around other beings. The interdimensionals are much taller, and they're human-like, but not human at all. And there's tall grays, and there's sometimes rare occasion. There's like a reptilian, but there's never very many of them. And just a lot of different beings and stuff. But she takes me to craft, and she's also the one that brings me back home. And while I'm there, though, I don't even see her. And I've figured out over all these years that she is a hybrid, and she was designed by the interdimensionals and the tall grays and the positive extraterrestrials. And what she does, and the other 2 with her, who I'm not bonded with, but there's always 2 others with her. They always travel in 3s. So she is a hybrid, and she's about 4 foot tall, and she is a hybrid of the grays. And they designed her, and in her DNA, she is designed to handle Earth's atmosphere, gravity, and our density. The interdimensionals and extraterrestrials have a hard time with the density here on Earth. It's not comfortable to them, so they design this specific type of hybrid gray, and she's not gray, she's a reddish brown color, to do their leg work. And she's not a robot. Her personality is very bland and comes across as robotic, but she's a biological being. But she has no personality really at all.
Nope. What's the specific of the 3s?
They always travel in 3s, and I know that I am bonded with her, and she is who telepathically talks to me, and that is who I hold hands with. That is who I have a bond with, and I sometimes joke around and call her my E.T. mother. She's not my mother, but she's been with me all my life. So we're bonded, and I care about her a whole lot, and she feels the same way about me. And it's easy to sense these feelings, but it's not in a human way that you would express love or anything like that. But so basically, the other 2, I don't know what their function is really, but they always travel in 3s. And the reason I know this is because throughout my life, I've had all kinds of experiences, and I actually saw my 2 sons. I have 2 sons, and I saw them taken for the first time. And when they came in, I was on a vacation with my ex-husband, and he and I were in one bed, and the children were in another, and I woke up and sensed their presence. I can always tell when they're there or right before they get to me. So I raised up in the bed, and these were 3 grays, but they were not the same ones that come for me. These 3 were about 3 foot tall, and they were of a grayish color, or best I could tell, the lighting wasn't that great, but they were short, 3 foot, and they wore a whole robe, and they had very high collars. So when I raised up, one of them approached me, took me on my left shoulder and pushed me back into the bed to lay down, and told me telepathically, go back to sleep. This is not about you. So, you know, then what they did was, because they could sense my anxiety and the fact that I was upset, because I realized that this was not for me. They were coming for my small children, and my children were very young at this age, and it was very disturbing. But so they put me in a sleep paralysis. I was fully awake, but I couldn't speak and I could not move. And I watched them go over and get my two sons and then start to exit. And then I went to sleep or blacked out. They had me black out, whatever. So the next morning when I woke up, I asked my children if they had had any weird dreams or anything. And they were like, no, they were eating their breakfast. We were at a hotel and we were having breakfast, and they were sitting there eating pancakes and just looked at me like, no, just, you know. So I left it alone because no harm had been done. And at this point in my life, I was still trying to piece what all this was. What did it mean? All these, I had so many questions. And so, and as I was young, one thing that I never understood was when they came for me, I would, when I was little, I really don't remember how it all occurred. I just remember having a playful time. But as I got older, what they would do is I would be in bed, they would come, I would sense their presence, and I would keep my eyes closed most of the time, to be honest. That's the truth. And then I would feel my covers being drawn off, and then I would feel like a scanner type feeling, and it was going from head, it didn't touch me, but it was a scanner, and it was going from head to toe to head, up and down several times. And then I would feel my body start to float up off the bed. At this point, I would look down and my bed was empty. And so I realized that this is not this was a physical thing happening to me. This was not a dream. This was not an out-of-body experience. And I look over and I'm holding the hands with this female gray. So that continued on all my life, you know, and into my married life and as a motherhood. And so finally I got to a point where I was very disturbed and upset, and I wanted to know why all these things were happening to me. What did it mean? What was the purpose of it, etc. So I meditated and I asked for them to please explain things to me. So the grace came for me, not while I was sitting there, another, you know, night or whatever, the next day or night or whatever. They came for me and they took me before a group of what they called were the elders. And the elders were beings of many different races and many different probably dimensions. And they were, so there were a whole bunch of them. I couldn't tell you the number, there was many. And I asked them, why was this happening to me? And they told me that I had made a decision before being born as a human being. I had made a decision to be here at this particular time in humanity, in this time, to assist and help humanity understand their agenda, why they are here, why it's happening now, to clear up a lot of misinformation that has been given to us throughout our lives. There's just so many things that need to change. Our whole history needs to be rewritten. There's so many things that we've been told that are not true. And they said that I had made an agreement. And so I said, I don't remember. And I was shaking my head. And then they presented me and showed me a vision of myself as an etheric being. And it was me, and I was sitting and waiting, and then they came to me and said, it's time for you to go to your human experience. And they explained to me that you will not remember this when you wake up. Years will pass, and at some point we will be coming to visit you, and at some point we will reveal this to you, and you will also remember it all yourself. And That's exactly what has happened to me, is that I realize now. But what I didn't understand, really, I still had a lot of questions. So throughout my life, this has not been an easy thing for me. I grew up in an era where if you talked about stuff like this, you would be probably sent to the principal's office. My parents discouraged me from talking about it. I was not allowed to talk about it to any other relatives or friends or to anyone. And society itself, these are not topics that you would talk about, and they thought of people as being crazy for talking about these things. So I learned very quickly to suppress it. And it's not an easy path. Anybody that has experienced these experiences will tell you that it is not easy. You go from wondering if you are crazy. You wonder about who you are. It eats at your heart. It eats at your soul. It's a hard thing to understand. And a lot of friends you will lose. A lot of relationships, marriages, all these family members, a lot of things can occur because of these things. And it's not easy. And it's not easy to come out and talk about these things either. So I'm hoping that by myself doing this, I'm at an age, I'm not married anymore, I'm single, and I have nobody that I have to impress or care what they think. I'm at an age where I am who I am, and that's good. That's enough for me. So basically, though, there's still things I wanted to know. And throughout my life, whenever I had these dramas or very upsetting, depressing things happen to me, they would come to me and they would say to me, if being here on earth ever gets to be too much for you, you can always come home. And I'm not going to lie to you, that did not resonate with me at the time. This is my home. I knew of none other things. This is my home. I was a wife. I was a mother. This is my home. And so continuously, when these things that I went through, these traumatic things in my life here on earth, they would come to me and continuously tell me this same thing. And I didn't understand, but now I understand what all this has meant and why I've had to go through good and bad things. Being here on earth is an experience. Everybody's here having a human experience, and we are here. Earth is a school. We are here learning and becoming more aware, more intelligent, and experiencing things and learning from our mistakes. So basically, I struggled with this, but about a year and a half ago, they gave me a Kundalini awakening. And when this happened, it scared me to death. I didn't know what this was. But now I understand that they cleared out my chakras, and they opened up my subconscious into my consciousness. And I now know a lot more, or things, I'm pulling things from my subconscious, and it's coming into my consciousness, and I know things, and and now I can have more conscious, awake time when I'm with them. Before, when I was experiencing anxiety and fear at their presence, not because of the way that they look. What it is they are vibrating on a higher frequency than a human being. We are at a very low frequency. And when we come in contact with a higher frequency being, it is a feeling that our brain and we do not understand. It is not anything that we experience here on earth. So for us, we have in our DNA genetically, when we see something or something comes before us and we don't understand what it is, it's fear or flight. And it's in every one of us. And there's nothing wrong with feeling this way. That's in our DNA. From the very early stages of humanity, everything around us was considered a predator. So we have this fear factor in us that is inbred in us from all our past. And so when you come in contact with a higher frequency being, it is very hard to understand the feeling, because it does not hurt, it does not feel bad, it does not feel great. But the closest thing I could compare it to is kind of an euphoric feeling. It's just overwhelming. So I began to ask them questions, and they were explained to me that when they were coming to me when I was younger, and when they were taking this like scanner like thing and doing this from head to toe, and it was a vibrating type sensation back and forth. They were taking me being a 3D human being, they were taking my frequency and changing it into their frequency. And when they got me to their frequency, then when they were carrying me to craft, we would go through the ceiling or through a wall, through a door or a window. And that's how they were doing that. And that was a great relief to me, because I could not understand how in the world, because human beings cannot do this. So I did not understand. And it was this is not easy at all. And I want all experiences to know that they do know this and they understand this. They know this. They are very patient, and they have been very patient with me, because it took me, I'm 63 years old, and it was up into my 50s before I started getting answers and started learning how to deal with my fear. Even now, sometimes I have to deal with my fear. But what I do now is I know what it is. So when I feel the fear brewing up in me, I stop, focus on it, and tell myself within, do not be afraid. Fall into the experience, flow
Right.
with it, get the full conscious experience, because the more conscious experience you have, the better communication and the better that you can remember your whole experience. When you get scared, and they'll take you and they'll tap your head and they'll put you in a not in a functional but sedated like state. Nothing chemically is given into you. It's simply by touching your forehead, they can put you in a very non-fearful state. And that way you are fully functional, and you can still have the experience, and they can do whatever task, where they're wanting to teach you something, or if they're wanting to check exam to see how your health, or see what your intellectual level has increased to. So if what it is, they'll put you in that sedated subconscious state. But the problem with that is when you return home and you wake up, all of your memories are fragmented. So you cannot remember everything. And that is very hard for an experiencer to not be able to piece things together. So it is a process. This is not something anybody could do overnight. Even the bravest of human beings, of whoever, this is not easy. This is not like seeing a lion or a dinosaur. It's for me, it's not about what I saw. It's the frequency that I felt.
Yep. And something that's interesting is that when they take you, usually
Yes.
from a younger age,
Yes,
they know what your mental status is.
absolutely.
And they will not allow you to understand or remember until you are mentally comfortable psychologically with the situation.
Yes, a lot of times when you're young, if you start to get a little fearful or whatever, they have the technology and the ability within themselves. They can take an image from my head and turn it into looking like someone else that they captured from my brain that I felt comfortable with. And they can still do this now. But the difference now is that when they do that, it's a person that I know is not standing in the room with me, and I know it's them, and I know that they're doing it to help me to stay conscious longer. And they can also change the scenery around you. If a child was reading a fairy tale book, they could turn the whole scenery around you as if you're in the fairy book tale. So they're not when they look like they're someone else, they are not that person. They are reflecting an image of that into your mind, into your consciousness. Yeah, and they do this because they want you to, the goal is to get you comfortable and groom you into this process. It's not an overnight thing that anyone can do.
Most of the time, you have a task. You're assigned a task,
Yeah.
and until you are comfortable, you can't do anything. So that's why they kind of work with you.
Yeah.
It's a very upsetting experience.
It's not easy. It's not easy at all. But I do know everything in my life, good or bad, everything that has happened to me was for a reason, and I have learned for it. So I don't blame anybody or anyone for any of the things that's happened to me. Everything had served a purpose. Now that I look back at it, it serves a purpose. And these were experiences that I needed to become who I am today. And for me to have this awakening and higher consciousness, and now I vibrate at a much higher frequency because of my conscious contact with them and my persistence in trying to have a more conscious contact.
Yep.
So it's a beautiful thing. It's hard for people to understand that, but it really is. And the reason I say that is because my children are experiencers as well. My oldest son has the same type of experiences that I have. My younger son really has only put his toe in the pond, so to speak. And my philosophy and our family's philosophy is we are all here having a human experience, and everybody needs to follow their own path and their own rate of how they want to go approach this. And if he never wants to approach this any further, that's his decision. So it's a personal decision, and it's a hard thing for everybody to accept. And and extraterrestrials, the positive extraterrestrials and the interdimensionals know all these things. We are just now the beginning stages of disclosure, and it's a whole process. So we have to all work together and try to communicate so that we all understand what and I can tell you what they've told me. So back in October, September, somewhere right in there, September, October, right when that week kind of crosses over and shares the same months, the interdimensionals orchestrated a trip to Mexico. They wanted my son and I to go there. So my son got us tickets, and we flew into Mexico City, and then we took another flight over to Hotacos. I'm not saying that right. Hotaca, something like that. I know no Spanish. And then we took a shuttle ride up into these mountains for a 3-hour ride up into these mountains. And we came up to the top of the mountains. It was very cold. It was not a tourist area, and there was nobody spoke English, and there was no internet and no cell phone coverage. Very spotty if you could ever even find a spot. But the reasons why they wanted us to go there is they wanted one of us at least, to meet the indigenous tribe, and they were called the Zapotecs. And the Zapotecs are also called the people of the clouds. And the people of the clouds were on their verge of ascension. And these people, their civilization goes back as far as the Incas and the Mayans. And this culture had got to the point where their higher awareness and consciousness, and they were on the verge of ascension, and it fell through. It just fell. And the reason for that is because their younger generations, rather than staying and carrying on traditions and culture, they got distracted by technology and materialistic things, and all of them abandoned their fellow tribes. The older generation, the younger generation left, moved to Mexico City, and then some of them went on to other places where, like the United States or Canada, Europe, etc. So they wanted us to understand the impact that it has, that by being overswayed by technology and things, how you can lose a lot about your culture. And it was very sad, because these are the most eco-friendly people I've ever seen in my life. All of them live up there. Some of them have electricity and some of them don't. But they live very simple lives, and they are very eco-friendly, and they go through the forest and they forage for things and they grow things, and they're just very eco-friendly and love nature and have appreciation of nature. And now their race is dying. So a couple of things they wanted us to experience. One being seeing the impact of how a generation just abandons their traditions and ways, and the impact of that. And also because we're all facing AI technology, and it's the talk, it's good, it's bad, et cetera, et cetera. And what they told me is, keep in mind, AI technology is a man-made tool, okay? It was designed and created by men. As long as we keep it a man-made tool, use our higher thinking, our brain, and our intelligence, and never let it just take over something, like be in charge of a whole city or in charge of a whole whatever. We keep it as a tool, and technology will be wonderful for us as long as we're in charge and we keep it as a man-made tool, and think of it as a man-made tool and use it to help us. And it can help us a great deal, but it's all about that we use it in positive ways, not negative ways, and that we use it to benefit humanity, not just single it out for certain things. It needs to be something that's used for humanity. And the other thing that they wanted us to experience up there is they asked us to come outside, and we were looking at the forest. We were staying in a cabin, and we walked out, and they took their hands out like this, and they said, everything is alive. Everything is alive. Everything is alive. Everything is connected, and everything is one. And then they showed me visions of plants talking to each other, trees talking to each other, little flowers talking to each other, family of mushrooms talking to each other. And they said, just because we can't see these things with our 3D eyes and our 3D world, that does not mean that there's not things going on all around us. And they said that Earth is a living being, and that the water is a living being. Everything on this planet is a living being.
So something very interesting happened, and it's been caught on tape, and now they're coming out. Gentleman was in the forest, and there was a fern, and it was dancing on its own. No wind, nothing. And he walked over to the fern, and then eventually when it noticed that the man was there, it just stopped and stood straight. And he talked to it, and he said, it's okay. I like what you were doing. Can you please do it? And it started doing it again.
Yeah.
There are trees that are moving. There are plants that are responding to conversation.
Yes.
So it's pretty interesting.
It is very interesting. And our scientists already have proven, and they know this. The mainstream population does not know this. But as we continue our ascension into the fourth and fifth dimension, and we will become higher consciousness and higher awareness, we will start to see things And a lot of people ask me, how do you know if you're in the fourth or fifth dimension? The fourth and fifth dimension is not a physical thing. The fourth and fifth dimension is higher consciousness. So it's a gradual higher consciousness. So when this happens to us, it's very subtle. And by the time you realize it, it will seem like it's just always been that way. You won't
Yep.
even realize that you haven't ever, when you're seeing new things, you'll just think, "Look, I've always seen that." So,
And we're transitioning to that right now. We're in
Yes.
the third, we're in 3D.
yeah,
We're
And we're
moving to
already
4
in it.
and 5. And
absolutely.
there are going to be people, even in your families, that aren't going to be joining you there.
I think they will eventually. It's just going to be a very slow process. This is not something that happens overnight.
Right.
Most people don't have an understanding of any of this. This is a lot. It's a lot to absorb, and it is going to take a while. But the main thing they wanted me to explain to humanity is that people ask, why are they interested in us? What is it about us? It's not about us. It's not about us. We are a part of Earth, and they do care and love us. But they love not only us, they love our planet and see her as a living being. They love all the fauna, all the jungles, the Amazon, the mountains, the waterfalls, all the deserts. All these things, they see them as living beings, and they are all connected, and they are all one. And so is the universe, and we're all part of all of this. We're part of the universe. So when we start playing with nuclear weapons and weapons of mass destruction, it is not good that we could wipe ourselves out, and they will not let us do this. And the main thing, too, is you have to remember they love our planet, and they love all things on it, the birds, the trees, the insects, everything. When you play with nuclear weapons, not only can it destroy our Earth, which they will not allow, but it disrupts the balance of nature, and it disrupts our planet. And these are things that are very sacred to them. So human beings, we're just a part of everything they love. We're not what this world is all about. There's things on this planet that are just as important as us.
Yep.
So, and there's a lot of things that we forget living in our suburban areas and living in these in the United States and stuff. There are many indigenous tribes still out there, okay? And there are even the people that are in these countries where they have these leaders that want to push buttons for nuclear weapons. There are so many innocent bystanders in those countries. They don't have a choice on what their leaders do. And the extraterrestrials, positive extraterrestrials and interdimensionals know all these things, and they're not going to let our world end because of two cranky leaders.
Yeah, there's one leader. I don't want to get political, but he
Yeah.
didn't start any conflicts, and hopefully he'll be back.
Yeah. So they're not, they have come down here and they have turned off all of our nuclear power plants. They have given the government indications that that's not going to happen. And now we are branching out into space. So, yes, they really want to make sure that we're coming to a pivotal moment in our evolution. We are having a spiritual evolution, an awakening. We are becoming more intelligent, and we're playing with technology that could ripple out into space, and they are not going to let that happen either. And that's why you see so many things, our media or different things happening around the world, because they want to keep humanity in fear. Because if we're in fear, then they can influence these lobbyists, senators, congressmen, whoever, and these negative humans that are in cahoots with some of these negative extraterrestrials, the black hats, the dark forces, the elites, all these people, they've manipulated humanity forever, for eons. And the reason they do that is because of they have power and control, and they manipulate us around like little puppets. They take our politicians, get them in office, and then manipulate them to go along with their decisions. So we have been manipulated for eons, and now we're at a pivotal point, and the positive extraterrestrials and interdimensionals know that we are intelligent enough to know that they are not gods and they are not angels. So we can have a face-to-face. And when they got all into our solar system, they started coming in their motherships. They told all these negative extraterrestrials, the one race of grays, there's many different races of grays, there's many different races of reptilians, there's many different races of every single race you could think of, Arturians, Anunnaki, Sumerians, all of them. There's not Sumerians, but Syrians. There's many different kinds of races, and there's good and bad in every race, just like there are human beings. But the majority of them are positive and are in with the interdimensionals, who looks at humanity as children, and they want to help us, and they see that we're at a pivotal moment, and they don't want to come down here and take charge. They do not want to control. They simply want to assist and help us to make the right decisions, because they are billions of years ahead of us in technology and in evolution, and they have seen many other beings throughout these universes and galaxies come to this pivotal moment and not make the right decisions, and they are no longer living. So they think of us as children, and we have been denied our extraterrestrial heritage. We are all a little bit extraterrestrial. They had a part in our making. They had a part in the creation of all the fauna and all the things on this planet. And another thing I want to clear up is they all have souls. Even the negative ones have souls. And they all believe in a creator source. Creator source would be like what we call equivalent, like we call God, but their version of God is quite different than the way that we look at it. And of course, they do not have these man-made up religions. Most of our stuff are man-made and are not a true source of the creator. So these things, there's a lot of things that are going to be presented, and we are going to learn a lot of things this next year and for years to come possibly. And it is going to be a big change for humanity, a new way of thinking, a new way of living. And it's not going to happen overnight, but they are here, and they are waiting and watching us. And if humanity doesn't continue to ascend and become higher intelligence and raise our vibrational frequencies, they'll be patient, because at some point it will happen. It will happen. All these things are on timelines. Things are going to happen. And the disclosure will happen, but you have to, government disclosure and extraterrestrial disclosure are two different things.
Yes,
and
they
do
are.
not work together. So
No,
that's
they don't.
another thing. Yeah.
Disclosure, and I've said this for a long time, took place in 1977 with the release of Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yes.
And Dr. Hynek was the one that was there and in it. He didn't ruin his non-disclosure agreement or anything to do with the government. He just stood there, took a pipe out, and was looking at something.
Well,
There's your disclosure.
exactly. And unfortunately, the governments at that time refused the help. And all they wanted was for us to quit using nuclear weapons. But we would not agree to that at that time. And that is very unfortunate because our governments have been sitting on a lot of technology. We should have no diseases. We should not be using fossil fuels. We should not be paying for energy. All of our foods, all of our water, all of our air is polluted with toxins and chemicals. Extraterrestrials, interdimensionals would not even touch our food. They would not consume any of our food. It's full of impurities, toxins. So there's a lot of things, and we are waking up, and we are going to be waking up more and more and realizing that we want change. We do not want to live in a world that has wars all the time. We do not want to live in a place where we work 9 to 5. And when we're born, we are born given a social security number, and we work all our lives. And a lot of people work paycheck to paycheck. Some women keep other people's children and never get to experience their own. There's a lot of things that we have got to change as a whole of humanity. We should be enjoying our human experience. We should be enjoying every facet and every stage of our lives. And by the time that we get to retirement, we're either unhealthy, something happens, and we don't even get to enjoy our senior life. So these things can all change. And we can use technology, our man-made tool, in ways to benefit us as far as humanity. And we can also say we are ready for change. We want world peace. We want certain things. And as we expand to higher frequency, we become a higher vibrational frequency, and it spreads. And other people start wanting to have that same positive vibrational feeling. So it's not something that will happen overnight, but it is something that will happen.
I'm just trying to figure out where we can get the echo off. And I think if we go to your settings, Nancy, on your screen at the bottom, you'll see something that says settings. It's a little cog.
Yeah.
If you click on that, a window will open up. And then on the left side, you'll see audio, and click that.
Okay.
And see if echo cancellation is checked.
We'll see if
right. There you go.
That did it. We should have done this sooner.
Well, I was trying to fix this, but it does.
There we
happen.
go.
So there we go.
Oh my
You're welcome.
goodness. Yeah.
Not
We're
for
back.
you. These are all the people in the chat. Well, Brian has an echo.
No, we're like, yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I got some questions.
All right.
I've been trying to hold them back just because of the echo. It's like trying to just let you go because it cleaned up the audio. All right. First off, you kind of answered it a little bit. What's racing through your mind as your kids are being abducted and there's nothing you can do?
I was upset. Because I didn't understand. I knew this was happening to me. I never once anticipated it would include them. So I was feeling anxiety. I was feeling anger. I was feeling all these things. And that is why they put me in a sleep paralysis, is because I would have yelled. I would have jumped up or something, And so these grays are very task oriented. There is no negotiating, and they don't meet this in an ugly way. That's just how they are. They do not have the emotions. As a matter of fact, no other beings in the universe has all these emotions that we have. So it makes it, they don't like it. So in other words, when I feel anxiety or fear, what I feel, they're telepathic. They feel it, okay? But they feel it 10 times what I feel. And they don't know what to think about this. They don't know what to do with this feeling. So they tap us out. That's why they do that.
Yeah, I put a poll up in the chat on YouTube thing, and I said, when you said that, I was like, it's still up there for people to vote, but I gave choices. One was start an intergalactic war, embrace a new adventure, keep it quiet or find a support group. And the thing was, well, how would you handle your kids being abducted by aliens? And so
Well,
that's polling right now.
I mean, I think
Well, I can tell you this myself as the mother and as a contactee, it's a beautiful thing. At the moment, because of my lower consciousness and understanding, I didn't know. But they are of higher consciousness and they know these things before we ever do. Everything was orchestrated
right.
in a fashion for us to mature into these things.
I
And I was
literally,
lucky I got to see it. They could have easily done it without me being conscious.
so at one point we were driving to Florida and we have missing time for 3 hours. So I know what the event is because there was a craft prior to it and whatever. And everybody in my car, my wife and 2 daughters got taken. And I know there are signs and and they were like, "What's wrong, Dad?" And I'm like, "I can't explain, I can't say this to them and I've yet to tell them." It's a lot for them to deal with.
It is.
And
And
as a researcher, an investigator, and an experiencer, um, you know, I had a problem with it because
yeah,
I'm an adult and my wife's an adult and you got to play around with us, but you don't touch my kids.
yeah. Well,
Now, but I also know the other side of it, Nancy,
yeah.
that if they're taking the parents for whatever
Mhm.
reason, they're going to take the kids and then they're going to take the grandkids and they're going to take the great grandkids. I mean, it seems to be generational.
No,
And
here's how it is. Okay.
yeah,
All right. As I was going through this, I have found out positive extraterrestrials will only take, and the interdimensionals will only take incarnates. I have found out that I was an extraterrestrial, interdimensional being before I came here. And I made the choice to come and be here for this particular time. I incarnated here from an interdimensional race. And there's probably a million other people like me. Each race that is positive, they've always known timelines are always already there. And there's variables on how it all plays out. But each race has sent incarnates down here for this very reason. And all of us are waking up at different times for whatever reasons, because we're all having a human experience and everybody's on their own path. So interdimensionals and positive extraterrestrials will not overstep the boundary of human beings being here on free will. We are here on free will, and they will not overstep that boundary. They do not do any abductions, okay? The positives do not. They only get incarnates or starseeds or someone in direct lineage with them. And my children were incarnates. The negative extraterrestrials, the one race of grays, did do abductions, and they don't do them anymore. Once the interdimensionals and positives got here, they told them to stop and get away. And if you look, you'll see that all of these abductions and stuff were not recently, not with.
Now, I don't know if you can see the question on the screen or not.
I can't.
Okay. One of the watchers wants to know, do you know if they can read your thoughts when they're close
Absolutely.
by in the sky?
Absolutely. They've told me, when I talk to them, I meditate with intention, pure thoughts, intention. And I was struggling with some questions and some answers that I wanted to know. And they don't come just when, they're not just sitting up there and you snapping a finger and saying, get here right now. It does not work that way. They're not just sitting up there waiting to be summoned. It doesn't work that way. But they told me they hear everything I say to them. They hear everything I say, and they know everything that's going on in my life. So yes, they do. But back to what I was talking about, the negative extraterrestrials, there's one race of grays that are negative, and there's one race of reptilians that is negative. And there's other types of negative races, but the grays were the ones that did a lot of these abductions, and most of the times these are not lifelong contact. That's why there's a difference between a contactee and a person that's been abducted. Usually they don't have a lifelong experience like I do. So their experiences are not as pleasant as mine, because grays are task oriented. They could care less if you're upset. They could care less what you think. They could care less. They are self-serving, independent. They are not connected. Grays are of a collective mind hive, and they are not part of the positive grays or the tall grays. This race of grays, they're on their own, and they're with the one race of reptilians, and they work with the different dark forces, because none of them want humanity to become who we are capable of being.
Yeah, and then
That'd be dangerous, right? Sorry, Greg.
No, they're not
no.
dangerous, but they are.
No. If humanity becomes and moves into a different, raises the vibration, raises the frequency, there are some of them that don't want that.
They're a very minute, small part.
Yep. And
they're minority.
Control,
most
right?
of them, you can go back and you will see several years back, I don't remember the year, but you can see when they got into our solar system, they put the word out, get away from humanity. Stop your playing with humanity. It's over. They are coming to an ascension, a pivotal moment. We are coming. And they told them to leave. And you can see thousands of ships leaving our planet, escaping Earth, because they know they cannot compete with the interdimensionals. They are of higher intelligence, higher evolution. And because they positive extraterrestrials, they allow them to travel interdimensionally and give them the technology and assistance, because they are positive. The negative ones, they do not help. They cannot travel interdimensionally. They can never even go outside our solar system. So you have to understand, they have been who has been over control of us, manipulating us. And with these different groups in control, they've kept us dumbed down, ignorant, through our ignorance, because of not being able to reach higher consciousness. So what they've done was, when the interdimensionals told them to leave, most left. Some are still here, and they're on their last legs, and they are the few that are still here are all fighting tooth and nail. They created this war in the Middle East. They constantly have disrupts and distractions to keep humanity separated. We have been separated for eons. We are supposed to all be connected, because we are all connected and we are all one. And as we realize through higher consciousness that what has happened to us, and we become one, there's nobody can touch us. Because here's the kicker. We actually, through the interdimensionals, but we actually have the ability to become, we have a lot of our DNA is dormant by intention of these fashions of government. That's why they've polluted our water, our air, all these, their foods. Our pineal gland is calcified, crystallized. And that is the gland that would help us all to be more telepathic. And every time in the past, way back in the past, when people would show signs of being able to see or having any of these things, they were called demonic. They were called crucified, burned at the stake, different things, because their pineal glands and things were not, they still had some of that ability. But we all have abilities that are laying dormant. And as we reach higher consciousness, and with the positive extraterrestrial interdimensionals, they're going to help us to activate these things. And we are going to realize that we have a lot of abilities that are going to start to serve us. and we can actually become interdimensional. And I don't mean overnight, that nothing happens overnight. Everything is a process. And basically, we are the stepping stones to a better future for humanity, our grandchildren's children. It's not going to happen. Everything can't happen overnight, but it has to start somewhere, and it needs to start now. And we are at this place in time and higher consciousness. We are going to go down in history if we do this right. We will be remembered as the generation that created a new world for the future generations and for our planet. And we become all one and united. And we realize that underneath these human vessels that we're in, that we are all, if you took this off, we are all energy beings, and we're all alike, and we are all one. And that includes the universe and the extraterrestrials. We are all one.
All right, we got a couple of questions here. One's going to be kind of a follow-up to this one. This may almost want to, it's like you mentioned that these beings have a different God perspective.
They believe
than
in
the
creator
human
source. Yeah.
Do you, is that why they can't hurt God's creations?
They don't have it in their, they are so head in evolution. Those things don't exist. There is no such thing as evil in their dimension, in their evolution. Those things were left long ago.
So then the follow-up to that one is that somebody else had the thing too, is in what's with, what is your thoughts on all the reports, like when people say, call out the name of Jesus Christ, that the aliens leave?
Because a lot of this is man-made information, misinformation, which is done intentionally to keep separation, to keep humanity separated, because they don't want us to come together and have a mutual unity and understanding of who we are, and that we will no longer listen to these manipulations.
And then one, Calabas was asking, about the abduction, whether or not it's evil or not. And I kind of had that was one of the follow-ups I had too, is one is you talked about that they won't abduct those that don't want to be.
The positives and the interdimensionals will not. There's one race of grays that did overstep that boundary. But then they did for their own reasons. They had their own agenda, and I think they were doing genetic research.
So in those ones, like the ones that do adhere to your wishes, why is it that they choose who they take? Because there's a lot of people that say they want to be taken. It's like, I want to go, and it's like never happens.
For the positive and the interdimensionals, I am an incarnate. I was an extraterrestrial before I came here, and there's a million people like me, and these are the ones that they have contact, and this starts from our birth and continues on till the day we die. And we know that we are in a temporary vessel. Earth is a temporary experience, and that when I die, I know that my soul and my consciousness is not in an organ in my body. My soul and my consciousness will go up to creator source, and that soul will go before a group of elders, and decisions will be made between me and the elders and the creator source as to where I go next. And if I have not completed all my experiences here on earth, they will incarnate back here if they feel, and it's agreed that they've incarnated enough and they've experienced and they've reached their social evolution, their awareness, and all these things of experiences and higher consciousness and social, just spiritual evolution. Then they could either become an extraterrestrial, or they could become a dolphin, or anything they want. And once you get through all that process and you decide that you feel like you've experienced all these things, it would be equivalent to what we call the 12th dimension, which is this is a human understanding of levels of dimensions and consciousness, but that doesn't mean that that's what it really is. That's a human make, and the way to relate it to us is because that's what we come up with. But so if you've reached all these different experiences and you decide, you can make the decision to stay in your etheric being, your energy being, and you can reside at the top of the dimensions and live out the rest of your time, which never ends, up in that etheric state, which is close to creator source. So
Then
the
real quick,
negative extraterrestrials pick people randomly, and
that's
there's
what they
no reason for it. It's kind of like a draw with the cards. It's kind of like rolling the dice. There's no particular, they don't care. They just do.
And then Katie was one of those things, like when these things, do they communicate like current event type things? Like, do they talk about like when wars are going to end, when conflicts are going to start? Do they ever talk about those things?
We don't. We talk about humanity and human consciousness and ways to help humanity, to help everyone get to a point. This is not something that's going to happen overnight. And also they wanted me to think about and wanted me to, I talked to all these mental health therapists in the area I live in through either in person or email. And I'm just introducing them to these ideas and explaining to them as we continue through disclosure, not extraterrestrial disclosure, but just government disclosure. Some people who were afraid to speak up will start to speak up or will start to have memories. These things will surface. And at higher consciousness, these things will surface. So, and there's some people that will absolutely be shell-shocked and shattered that they've been lied to about a lot of things throughout our lives. And we need to have physicians in mental health ready. Not that you will be crazy, it's that there needs to be outlets for communication, group meetings, places where you can talk to people. You may not have family members, or you may not want to talk to family members, but you need to have group places and places where these things can be addressed and things can be explained.
So getting back to Katie's question, which is also, and there's another question from Carlito from the Cryptid and Paranormal Kingdom. The current war that's taking place in the Middle East right now, conflict. She asked if this is going to end, or when it's going to end. And Carlito is asking, will aliens stop us from a global war? So the question is, if they're caring and concerning about us and we're going in the wrong direction, or we're regressing by all this aggression, have you ever been told that they're going to do something to stop this, or not?
We are here on free will. By honoring that, they are limited to what they can do. There are boundaries. We are like children to them. When your child makes a mistake, your child has to suffer the consequences and learn from their mistake. And that's the way they see us. We are children. When we make a mistake, we have to learn from it.
Right.
It's just like if you see a cocoon, a butterfly cocoon, and it's trying to come out of that cocoon, and you see it, you think it's struggling to come out. Okay, it's in there, right. And you're saying, let me just help this. Well, when you do, what happens is the butterfly can't even fly because it needed that process to learn and grow. And when you helped it, you made it cease to exist. It dies because it didn't build up the strength to be able to fly and to take care of itself. So
I understand what you're saying. But on the other end of it, there's a ton of innocent people that don't want to be involved in this conflict, that are paying the price for the ones that choose not to learn to operate and converse and on a higher level. So, and I understand that, you have to learn your mistakes. These people clearly aren't learning their mistakes. They're taking it out on others. And there seems to be a need for, in my personal opinion, and probably other people, if they're there, an intervention of some sort to say, no, we're done with this. You either
They
play
don't do
nice
that.
or you go to the
They
room.
don't do that. And I do not give up on humanity, because if you see negative, you create your own reality. You can't look at the negative aspects. You have to raise your consciousness and learn to not live in the negative world anymore. You have to understand the higher consciousness beings, there is no such thing as wars. There is no such things as negative reality. We have to learn. We create our own realities. And part of that is a different way of thinking. And it is a process, because we are inbred and we think everything is, there's nothing good out there. But we have to learn that we're not the smartest apple hanging on the tree in the universe, and we're not alone. And they are here to help and assist, but they will not come down here and land on the White House lawn. They will not do things like that. They are not here to impress. They are not here to control us. They honor our free will, and they will simply watch us and patiently watch us and wait for humanity for all of humanity to come together and unify and our frequencies to raise, and then they will present themselves. And I also know that the first race that we see here that presents itself, kind of like whether or not that those things that happen in Miami or that the things that happen in Peru, those were not positive extraterrestrials. That was not them. And if anything, I would say that was probably a cryptid that jumped out of a timeline or out of a dimension. And because I have been on spacecraft and have experienced being with a group of explorers looking for those type creatures and collecting them and taking them back where they belong. And that's why you hear a lot of people talking about Bigfoot. One minute you see him and the next minute he disappears. And there's people that claim that they'll watch somebody walking and then all of a sudden they see them and then they're gone. You know, there's different dimensions. There's different things going on all around us that we simply can't understand because we cannot see it. But that doesn't mean it's not all there.
Right. Yeah, I think like with the nuclear ones, is like, I think, you know, I've always heard the reason why the reported thing that they've stepped in was due to the fact that it has universal consequences. The nuclear, you know, splitting of the atom, you know, it's basically, it's that quantum entanglement thing. When we disturb something here, it's going, you know, there's an equal and opposite, you know, action going elsewhere in the universe that is happening at the same time. And so when we split the atom, it's affecting elsewhere. It's not just here. It's not just like me and Brian duking it out.
That's a human thing. They are way past us on all these things. Our physics does not apply. Our knowledge of science, our knowledge of technology does not apply. They are a billion years ahead of us.
Well, most of this
human thinking does not work. It does not apply. It's so different. It's just unbelievable.
Most of the science they have at this point, up until this point, has been, you know, Einstein, Rosen, Bridge, Bayes type of science. And there is some merit to it, but they're on the wrong path. Basically, the way it works is there's two parallel paths, and Einstein's over here, but the real path is here. And what's going to happen is, if you follow Einstein's path, you're going to go this way when you should be going straight. And one person that was really on the right path, didn't get the credit, was Tesla.
Yeah.
And he knew the secrets, and he was in contact with beings because of the large Tesla coils. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of stuff that was going on with Tesla and may have been extraterrestrial related. Another group that was in contact with these beings, I would go so far to say that they were probably the not nice versions were the Nazis.
Exactly.
Even von Braun told everybody when he was asked, "Where'd you get this technology? You were so far ahead of everybody." He went, "You got it from them," and he looked up. He's not talking God or the people on the 7th floor,
Right.
So, it's interesting. I don't,
Well, they're not new to us. They've been here forever. They were here before us, So everything shows us in our past history that there's lots of indications that they left messages for us to figure out. But we are now beginning to see and realize all these things.
Yep.
So all these things are becoming well known to everybody. And ever since we've had the internet, you can't hide anything anymore. It spreads.
Not a big fan of, well, I mean, we utilize the internet, but the whole cell phone, slave to the phone, it was better when you could just, not look it up. You actually have to research it, go to a library, use your brain, ask some questions. So
yeah, that's why you have to be careful with technology. You can't let it do all the thinking for you. You use it as a tool. You can use it in a lot of ways, but you have to there's a fine line. The main thing is keeping it for good uses. That's the main thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't miss the microfiche days though. Come on.
Yeah.
Sitting there at the machine, trying to find the paper. Yeah, I don't think there's anybody that's longing for those days to come back.
No.
Yeah, it's Max.
Actually, I'm longing for it because if you use the microfiche and then you use printed encyclopedias, the information stays the way it is and you can't change it. And the problem is, after the Treaty of Antarctica and everything goes digital, they change it on the fly. You don't even know if the information you're reading is real, but be it today, an hour from now, or 10 years from now.
Yeah, but
So,
don't you remember the thing? You had a deadline for your research paper. It's coming up, and you have to wait for the 89-year-old librarian to go all the way to the back to get you the next set of microfiche things. So you can sit here and reel all the way halfway through just to find out she got me the wrong one. And now you got to wait for her to crawl back to the back. The whole time I'm like, Brian, I don't miss these days. Yeah. There's I don't care about the information. I'd be like, this was just brutal. You might as well just got me the stack of papers, and I'm sitting there.
Well, I mean, I don't trust AI technology. It's dangerous, and anything that can be edited is not real information. So
all you kids that don't know what us old timers are talking about, we used to have to do this thing called finger work, and we'd have to flip through stuff.
System.
The dude, oh my God!
I think that what's amazing is the James Webb Telescope. It's going to be finding things, and I think that the government kind of like snowballed on disclosure because they're hoping that the James Webb Telescope will actually find a civilization. And I've already seen indications that they found things. Who knows if it's true or not, but I think it will. And I think that that's what they're waiting on, is because I think rather than having to explain all these years of why they kept it covered and all the things that has happened to keep it covered up, if the James Webb Telescope were to find something and they announce it to humanity, humanity would be very excited. And the fact that it's like all these light years away, a lot of people could digest that pretty easily.
Right.
But
now we got sidetracked and I forgot to finish Max's thing. What species do you think is going to be the first one to come forward?
I don't know. See, there are so many variables that can happen, but I've been told that if for whatever reason, and I don't know the circumstances as to why it would happen, but if it's not the positive extraterrestrials and they introduce themselves, they will be quickly behind them to set it all straight. And I don't know that there's going to be an event or any event, and an event, there's a lot of variables that can happen, but I do know that if there were to be an event, it would not be worldwide, and it would be an isolated, but it would be enough to wake humanity up.
Right.
I do know that. But like I said, there are timelines, but there's different variables in between. And we're here on free will, and they cannot come down here, and it's not like a chessboard, where you're sitting there. They can't do stuff like that.
We have
And then
two
that's-
questions from two of the listeners, and they want to know like what your feeling is on if you are aware of it, the Miami Mall incident,
Yes.
which took place January 1st.
Yeah. I mentioned that just a little while ago, but I was on a craft, and I was an observer. I did not do any of the stuff. I was simply observing, and they were looking for these creatures that had jumped over to a dimension or a timeline, however you want to word that. And they were in the wrong place, and they were creating havoc. And these group of extraterrestrials that I was with were looking for them. And this is the first time I'd ever seen an aquatic being. There were many different beings on board. And what they would do, they had like a screen, and it was, to me, it's what resembled looking at a heat sensor. You didn't actually see what the creature was. You saw like indication of life, and then they would go down, their group would go down and get this creature and collect it, and then load it on craft, and then take it back to where it belonged, because it was creating too much anxiety for humanity. So I think if anything, it could have been some type of cryptid, something like that. So I was not there. So I there's no way I could actually know. I can only speak, about my experiences and what I've been told. So, and I do know that the beings that I'm in contact, they are very loving, and they don't toy around and play with humanity in that way.
Yeah. I can give you my opinion, but
I don't mind. Everybody's entitled to one.
no, I mean, trust me, I wasn't planning on researching it, but I was getting called by numerous people. I've talked to a bunch of people that were there recently, and seeing as what's been going on in the night sky in our solar system with the 11-year cycle of with the sunspots, the coronal mass ejections. I believe these beings were more interdimensional or timeline interdimensional. They weren't trying to get to Miami at all. They were trying to get to a specific location, may have been the opposite, or out, way away from there for whatever their purpose being.
Yes.
And because of the solar, solar energy and sunspots and reverse magnet,
It could
their
be
whole,
a tear. It could be a tear in timeline.
either a tear or their direction, if you want to call it,
Yeah, I know those things happen.
and they went to the wrong direction.
Exactly.
This happens all the time.
Yeah,
This happens in GPS with everybody. That's why they have to shut down the satellites, because if they don't, it's going to be giving out the wrong information.
Yeah, I can understand what you're saying. And I do know that there could be glitches in timelines and things like that. And that's how a lot of these creatures appear, and people see them. And then, so many other people don't, And I also know that our skies are teeming with UFOs and crafts. And the people that claim that they can see it are either higher consciousness, or either they're using infrared night vision, army grade devices. And is teeming. They're everywhere. They're not hiding. Everybody says, why are they hiding? They're not hiding. They're not hiding. We just can't see everything. And I know that our solar system is teeming with life, all kinds of activity, even on planets that we think wouldn't host life. They're everywhere. Venus, for example, it's very hot on the surface, but that doesn't mean that they don't live up in the atmosphere or live down below in the ground. There's different ways of doing that. And a lot of these beings now, they live in motherships. And some of them, they travel all over these galaxies and universe. They spend their whole lifetimes in craft. Yeah.
All right, we're up against coming near to the end. So I said real quick, so you've got a channel, the Nancy, and I'm saying your last name right? Thames.
It's Thames.
Thames. Okay.
As in the river.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I was trying to I was watching a couple of the videos in there. I was hoping I'd hear it pronounced, but it was just music with the words, and so I was like, I'm not gonna get.
I've got a ton of podcasts that I've done, and I've not put them in on that channel. That's why when I do a new podcast, I was trying to see if y'all could just automatically add it. And if you can't, I'll just have to manually do it, which is no.
Yeah, I wasn't able to post it, so I sent you the link for this one. Yeah, it wouldn't let me actually put it on your channel.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll put it in my group, and then I'll post it around into other groups. I belong to a lot of groups, and then I will put it on my website, which is timefordisclosure.com. And, in my Facebook group is Time for Disclosure / We've Never Been Alone. And these are all open to anybody, experiences, or even people that just want to dip their toe in the pond to get a dose of this information. So,
this is, I know Craig thanks you. I thank you for helping by posting, reposting. And aren't we? I don't know if we're pressed for time or whatever, but I think it would take longer than we normally would have. But definitely when you come back, I want to know how you went from having these experiences into the DOD, because in reality, it should not be.
Well, everything in my life has been orchestrated by them. There was a reason for everything. So, yeah. And I know why they wanted me to do that and why it happened. So it's really strange, but I'm not, everything in my life, even if I thought it was horrible at the time, now I can piece it all together now.
Yeah, they seem to get you in the right spot where you have
Yes. Yeah. I've lived in Australia. I lived in Hawaii. I've lived all these different places and experienced things everywhere I went. And, it's just, and like I said, everything hasn't been wonderful. It's not, being a human being is not an easy thing for anybody.
Real quick, we got that. It's like, have you ever had any experiences with the reptilians, positive or negative?
Yes. And they were positive. Yes. So
yeah, not all lizard people are bad.
Correct.
Is what we got there. So there's a soundbite. Not all lizard people are bad. Lizard people can be good. There we go.
Lizard people are good.
Like human beings. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's what Cal was the same thing too. It's just like, it's one sky watch. Look up there, record.
Mm-hmm. Everybody needs to do their own research. You don't have to, do not believe everything that I say or anybody says. Do your research, follow your own path. Everybody's on their own spiritual path, and you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink it. And we all have to do this on our own way and at our own pace.
Yep. I just charged up my, psionic full, my full night vision camera, because the last 2 UFO incidents that, of course, they come as surprise, even though I do investigate this stuff, and at the wrong time. The only thing I had was my iPhone, and it's just not cutting it.
Yeah.
So,
Here's a follow-up to that. Do you have any, what was one part of the positive experience with them?
The Grays took me, my female Gray, she's a reddish brown color. She took me to craft, and that was the first person that met me when I got on board. And this Gray did not have a tail. I mean, this reptilian did not have a tail, and he was tall. He was much taller than me, and he was more brownish looking, and he was wearing a tight-fitting suit, and it had an emblem on the left-hand side, but I couldn't tell you. I've tried to remember what it was, and I intentionally was trying to remember when I saw it. And when I saw him, I asked him, "Are you going to let me remember this?" And he said yes. And then we braced hands, and he told me to get to work. And he was a good reptilian. He really was.
All right. Well, I said everybody follow the channel. Nancy Thames. There we go. Let me make sure I get it right there.
That's
so,
okay.
Appreciate you coming on. Like I said, people, you follow.
Thank you for having me, because
you're welcome.
You are part of the disclosure. We are all part of this disclosure. I couldn't do what I'm doing if it wasn't for you. So we're all in this together. We are all one, and we're all connected, and we're all doing this. We're all very important, and we're doing disclosure right now.
You're adding another chapter in my file that they've already got.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah, I'm part of the DoD too. I've got a file somewhere in one of those files.
Interesting.
I'm sure they're watching me.
Interesting. Yeah.
No comment.
Yeah. So. All right. Well, appreciate it. Like I said, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you for having me, and I'd love to come back sometime.
All right. Well, definitely we'll be in touch. Everybody, once again, go to Radio, proud sponsor of the program. I realized I forgot to play the little promo in the beginning of the show. I got so focused on trying to get stuff there, so I forgot to do that. So we'll have to play it right here at the end. So. All right, like everybody, thanks for watching. We will be back. Yeah, we'll be back next week. Hopefully, Jim.
I hope Jim comes on. We having issues getting contact with Jim, and
we're not sure like the last name. We just know it's Jim. So we're gonna have conversations with Jim. So it's Jim, the mystery guy, Jim. He's gonna be here Q&A.
It's going to be along the lines of what Nancy has been discussing on a different perspective. He's out of Canada. He's very, very he's got a lot of information, and I really want him to be on.
Awesome.
Hello.
And we're working on this.
Yeah.
Hello, caller Jim. Are you on? Yes, that's what we're gonna be talking to Jim.
Maybe you'll play the edited opener next week. Yeah. Okay. So for everybody that's getting, like us, it's like Brian, Chris. It's like, it's Craig, Chris, Brian. I can just present it right now.
Well, there we go.
If you'd like, I mean, it's just, it'll.
I'm trying to. I don't even know if I have it downloaded on the thing.
It'll take 2 seconds to share. I'll just do it right now. Here it is.
Yeah. Here we go.
Ready?
Yep.
Welcome to the Three Beers.
Yeah, see, that's why.
Greg, along with Papa and Chris.
See, it works.
Yeah. Cool. Does everybody understand now?
Yeah, that's why we should play it. I mean, I've only been on here for almost a year now.
Yeah, does everybody understand now? Yeah. There we go. All right, so we'll see us out with the UFO thing for ERT Radio. So everybody, thanks for watching, and we will see you next week. Go, like I said, go follow Nancy. Thank you again.
Just so you know, I will be driving next week. So don't give me a hard time. I'm going to be doing.
So we'll have Jim on. We'll have Jim there, and we're going to have Brian. On the road. So it's going to be he'll be our on the road correspondent at that time.
Yeah, heading north.
So, all right. So everybody go support, make that account at mixer.com. It takes you less than a minute. Like I said, Ron's got some cool music and stuff. So everybody go do that. All right. So everybody, we will see you next week. Thank you. Good night.
Peace, everyone.